Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and last night I grilled some of the best chicken that I've ever grilled. My wife even liked it, and I don't think she's ever really liked grilled chicken, but she liked this grilled chicken, and I'll tell you the secret. The secret to good grilled chicken is to grill big pieces of chicken, not just the small breast. I think the bigger pieces don't dry out as much. And so that's the way to go. That's your grilling tip for today. Okay, I'm not going to play this because there's probably copyright stuff all in this if I played this, but you got to go see it. It's from the Saturday Night Live SNL at NBC SNL. You can play this clip. I wanted to just show this to you. It's called What the Hell's an NFT? And I wanted to show this to you because you can tell that they are starting to market NFTs when you start seeing them on mainstream television shows like this. And then you'll see OpenSea, one of the NFT marketplaces, replied to the thread and said study up and gave them a link so that you could find out about NFTs. But it's just it's an indicator, and it just shows you that the adoption of all of these crypto related things is beginning to really happen. Okay, Jeremy Hogan weighed in on this letter that Ripple sent. He says, the sauce is getting thick in this litigation. Normally, I don't only read things one time and know exactly what is going on, but this one and the SEC response took me some time to hash out. Video tomorrow, but tonight, celebrate Pesach with my brother-in-law and relax. I don't even know what that word is right there. But anyway, we'll find out, I'm sure, in his video. Okay, so until he hasn't weighed in yet, but I'm going to show you the letter sent by Ripple's attorneys to the SEC, and I wanted to take you to this part right here. Now, basically, just before I get there, remember, John Deaton, the attorney, had filed some kind of letter to the SEC, basically saying that he wanted them to allow the XRP holders that he had, I think he had over 6,000 of them, to be what they call interveners. And again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just doing the best I can here, just putting this together myself. So anyway, Ripple, it looks like, is taking that as an opportunity to say, yeah, let's get some clarification out of the SEC here. They say the SEC must clarify its theory. The SEC now has a chance in the face of the putative intervener's letter to confirm that its suit is not intended to affect the secondary retail market for XRP in the United States. Despite some broad language in the amended complaint, the SEC has at times suggested that its theory of liability is indeed more limited, such that secondary market sales and other transactions in XRP would not be subject to federal securities laws. In other words, what it looks like is that Ripple is coming in and saying, look, the SEC should clarify this theory, or if they're not trying to hurt the secondary market, they need to let everybody know. That way these exchanges could go ahead and relist XRP. Hashtag relist XRP. It says down here, it says clarifying the SEC's theory in this manner is also consistent with the non-conclusory allegations in the complaint. The SEC has not alleged, because it cannot, that there is anything inherent in XRP that results in every sale of XRP by any person involving a sale of an investment contract. Nowhere does the complaint allege that holding XRP creates an ownership interest in Ripple, nor does the complaint allege that any sellers of XRP other than defendants engaged in any promotional activities whereby the economic substance of their sales of XRP could qualify as sales of investment In other words, it's pretty clear that none of these exchanges are the SEC is not even saying that anyone other than Ripple or people that work for Ripple are selling it as a security. So why not clarify this? That's what they're basically saying, the way I read it. And then it's that's about it. But that's the gist of what I understand as a non-attorney. I'm not an attorney, not an investment advisor. I'm none of those things. Okay, I'm just a YouTuber. That's it. YouTuber with a little bit of common sense is the way I see it. Now, I don't know why I do this on Sundays, but maybe because I got a little more time on my hands on Sunday mornings. I like to go and find Jay Clayton clips because it's so blatant and obvious to find clips where this guy, the way this is all unfolded was not the right thing. And so it's fun to go back and find these clips. In this one, Jay Clayton tells you, if you want to find out, if you want to work with the SEC, fine, come work with us. We encourage it. Bill Hinman's your guy. Same guy who gave the Ethereum free pass. Listen to this.
So talk through what the process is in the SEC for people who want to come to you and either get advisory opinions or get guidance or actually register offerings.
Look, we are happy to engage with people in this space, in our division of corporation finance, division of investment management, and trading and markets on all of these issues. Bill Hinman, who you mentioned before, runs our division of corporation finance. We have Val Panic. If people have questions, they or their lawyers can come to us. But I will say, if what you're doing is starting a venture and you're funding that venture by issuing tokens, you should start with the assumption that you're conducting a securities offering.
Okay, so I'll talk a bit about the funding model. So we will have a fundraiser for...
So anyway, I'm not going to make you watch this. You've seen this 1,000 times. But he says if you're raising money, if you're trying to raise money like a security, you need to just go ahead and assume it's a security. And then we see, as I've shown you before, Vitalik Buterin. So Vitalik Buterin obviously should have assumed that this was a security. And so he must have gone to Bill Hinman because Bill Hinman's the guy who is the go-to guy. That's what Jay Clayton said. Well, he gave Ethereum a free pass, so we need to find out what is it that Vitalik Buterin, in all of his salesmanship, what is it that he did when he went to Bill Hinman to make him understand that this just wasn't a security? That is as relevant gets, because the same reason that, and here's the overall point, if Vitalik Buterin actually had an ICO and had a fundraiser, and thus, they're basically saying he should just assume that's a security. But on the other hand, you got Brad Garlinghouse, who did not conduct an ICO, and they're now saying that Brad Garlinghouse should have known that it was a security. Are you seeing how Looney Tune this is? This is one flew over the cuckoo's nest stuff. There's no way on the planet Earth that Vitalik Buterin could be like, oh, well, maybe he should have known that it was a security, but then Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson, they're supposed to know. While there is no ICO on the Ripple side, there is an ICO, an obvious, blatant ICO on the Ethereum side. Nothing about this is right. They know it. Everybody knows it. And that's the reason this thing stinks to high heaven. But here we have, I retweeted the same clip, and I said if I were Ripple, I'd also be looking for any information on how this weighed in the Ethereum decision. And what this is that article I showed you yesterday. Vladimir Putin and Vitalik Buterin discuss Ethereum opportunities. This is when they got together in a meeting over in Russia, or in St. Petersburg. Okay, so it would be fascinating to find out if there were any communications about this. Did that weigh in their decision? Did any other government agencies talk to the SEC about this possibly needing to weigh in the decision? Then there was this clip. I found this clip. This is Glenn Hutchins who's on the board of the Digital Currency Group, which is an investor in Ripple and in Coinbase. This is Glenn Hutchins talking to Jay Clayton, and then I'll pose these two questions after you listen to it.
The general guidance has come out of the SEC that Bitcoin, in its quote-unquote present state, and Ether in its quote-unquote present state, are not operating as securities because they seem to be without central third parties and highly decentralized networks. The issue of the moment is, of course, what is XRP? Runs on the Ripple network. There's a lot of people in this audience who would like to know, but I think it's your...
Yeah, they're begging you to know, Jay Clayton.
Long-standing practice, the SEC does not talk about matters that are in front of them at the moment. So I'm not going to ask you that. Not going to ask you that because I know you won't give me an answer. And it's not just you; it's all your predecessors wouldn't give me the answer either. I get it. Don't worry.
I'm no better than they are.
But what's the process by which this is determined and the timing? When does the marketplace know the outcome to this really important question? Because as you know, Ripple right now is the second largest market cap token after Bitcoin.
I think I'll go back to what I said, is that we are open to people coming in to see us, engage with us, discuss their particular situation, and work through it with us. And some of the, I will tell you, some of these questions, require a lot of information in order to get to a definitive position.
Right.
Many are very obvious. I'm selling you my token. I'm going to go off and produce a venture, and hopefully you'll get a return for having purchased that token.
So basically, there he goes through the whole thing about how some of the, after the question about XRP, some of these require a lot of information. In other words, we need a lot of information. We just can't really decide yet. And then after he says that, he says, well, some are very obvious. So I put down here, he also says that many are very obvious, which leads you to believe after what he said there, it's obvious, to me, that some of them are very obvious, but XRP is not so obvious and we need a lot more information. But the SEC lawsuit says that Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson should have known, even though he didn't know and the SEC didn't know, and some are obvious, but the XRP one's not obvious. But Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson should have known. It's ridiculous. It's a joke on its face. This is also a joke. Two questions I have after listening to that clip. How on earth are these kind of wishy-washy non-answers for 8 years protecting investors? He was literally told in the clip that you got a lot of people in this audience that are wanting to know. So if he can't figure it out, and they go for 8 years with all these wishy-washy non-answers and nothing answers, how in the world are you protecting investors if you can't? I'll ask another one. If it takes you 8 years, you're at the SEC, you're in charge, and it takes you 8 years to make a decision, should you really be running anything? You couldn't. I'm a small businessman right here, the digital asset investor. I have 2 or 3 companies. You couldn't run my company if it takes you 8 years to make a decision. I can make a decision most times in seconds. Who on earth puts anyone in charge of anything that can't make a decision on something in 8 freaking years? That's embarrassing. There's not a corporation in this country that would have a CEO that runs their company that can't make a freaking decision in 8 years. And we're supposed to believe that it took this guy 8 years to decide what this was? I'm sorry I don't cuss on this channel, but that is freaking S. It didn't take him 8 years to decide anything. This is a political game right here. Nobody would have anybody running anything that can't make decisions in 8 years. And yeah, you got to collect more information. Whatever. Okay, then the second thing is, if the SEC had an obvious 8-year struggle if you assume that this guy couldn't figure it out in 8 years, if they had this 8-year struggle, then you got the other problem. If you are the CEO and you really do have that tough of a time making a decision, and it really does take you 8 years because you need all this information, well, then why in the world should it be? How can you then file a lawsuit after 8 years where you say that the CEO and the chairman, they had to know, even though your CEO butt could not make a decision on what it was for 8 years? You see the ridiculousness and the ludicrousness of this situation? That's because it is. We're not all going crazy out here. I watched this guy for 3 years. I watched him, and every time I was like, why is this guy just back and forth, ho-hum, milk toast answers all the time? Doesn't make any sense. The only context it makes sense in is if this guy is making political decisions and not decisions based on what's right and wrong or these type of things. Nothing about this has ever made any sense. No interview I've ever seen this guy where he's asked the question about XRP. I've never seen him answer the question where I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's reasonable. It's always like ho-hum, milk toast answer, well, that kind of stuff out of this guy. For 3 years I watched him. Okay, moving along. Now, this was a clip from the Cryptic Poet. The Bank of Canada is considering using Ripple's technology for payment. Okay? So listen to this clip. This is from Swell 2020 North America. It was just a clip that was caught, I think, by the Cryptic Poet.
And in fact, the Bank of Canada is working on projects to build the capability for that central bank digital currency. So although they're not going to issue that currency as yet, when the need arises to issue it, they want to be ready. So we're working closely with them on that specifically. And we're looking at providers like Ripple and how you offer it versus the different providers, and really just to get best practices and what's going to work for Canada, what's going to work, from a global perspective, interoperable perspective. So it's something that underpins, I would say it's an undercurrent to our current more active modernization projects.
Okay, so when I saw this, because this is the Bank of Canada that's considering using Ripple's technology for payments, what it reminded me of immediately was this tweet from Corey Johnson, who was at the time a spokesman for Ripple, and he says, "I'll say it again, this matters, #XRP the standard," and he was shaking hands with Justin Trudeau, who, I don't know if he still is, but he was the Canadian Prime Minister. There you go. And then there's this, folks. I got to show you this. You got to hear this. Let me tell you what. This whole Bitcoin maxi thing, there are some times when you see these clips where it's like somebody might need to tighten the screws with some of these people. And let me tell you what. This is one of those moments, because she actually has the gall, this Laura Shin has the gall to ask Michael Saylor about pullbacks in Bitcoin. You got to hear what he says. I mean, look, this is red flag city, folks. I've tried to sound the alarm on Bitcoin and what it is and what it is not, and you've just got to hear this. And what I said, next thing you know, he's going to announce that he and his followers are going to live on their own remote island, Bitcoin Island. And I was I was referencing that this is kind of feeling a little cult-like at this point. Like, some of this is not making any real sense, some of these things. Remember Jim Jones when he took all of his followers and he had them. So if I see Michael Saylor start to do interviews and he's got the big orange sunglasses, then it might be time to watch out. But listen to this.
And right now, the price is about 33,000. So you've more than doubled your investment. And most likely by the end of the year, we're probably going to be in some kind of bubble, I imagine. So the return will be even higher. And you've said that you didn't buy the Bitcoin to sell it. But would MicroStrategy ever take some off the table when you sense the market is at a top and then just buy in later when there's another correction? Or do you just plan to hodl through all the cycles, and weather those, whatever 80% downturns when the crypto markets are in a bear market?
Yeah, again, I just disagree with your characterization. I don't expect an 80% downturn. I don't think it's a speculative asset, and I don't think you can quote unquote take money off the table. You're speaking like a crypto trader right now, right? Yeah, I mean, maybe you're doing it just to represent their interest, but I don't see the world that way. I think that Bitcoin is sound money. It's the technically superior asset class compared to the dollar, the euro, the peso, the bolivar, compared to a stock index, compared to gold, compared to silver, compared to everything you can conceivably buy. It is technically, thermodynamically superior as an asset. So when you say things like that to me, and maybe you just do it just to see what I'll say back, I just imagine you preaching to me in Argentina while you're asking me if I'm going to sell the dollars and buy pesos back again as the peso sleeps from 20 to the dollar to 40 to the dollar to 80 to the dollar. Or if we're in, Venezuela. I mean, you think a Venezuelan company is going to quote unquote take some money off the table by selling their U.S. stocks and their U.S. dollars to buy back into local currencies? Or then, in Zimbabwe, you think they would take money off the table, right? The point is, if you have the superior asset, it's going up forever, Laura. Forever. Right.
Going up forever. There are several things that are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs about that clip. I agree with him that these governments have destroyed money. Where we depart, and the thing is, what he's saying right here, he's correct about how these governments are destroying money. Where we start to depart is he's coming from this angle of it's all Bitcoin, it can't be anything else, and he knows that it's an inferior technology. Period. He knows it. They all know it. All the Bitcoin maxis know it. But the other problem with what he's saying is he's making a very dangerous assumption, and that dangerous assumption is that the governments of the world are going to let Bitcoin just overtake everything without doing anything about it. That's the part that is dangerous about what he's saying. He just said Bitcoin is going to go up forever. Folks, when you start hearing this kind of talk, it's time to watch out. I'm telling you. And then listen to what I'm about to show you and play you. First, look at this. This guy, Nuno, apparently he's building this wallet. I want to show you this because he is a Bitcoin maxi. You can tell. Normally, you can tell pretty quick when all they say is Bitcoin in their product, when there's what they're selling. Radically simple and powerful Bitcoin wallet. And he kind of admits that he's a maxi in here. But the important thing is I want to show you how this religion has these people captured. Watch this. He says, now this is a guy who's a Bitcoin guy. I want you to follow this. I'm in disbelief. Just spent the day with a trader for one of the biggest hedge funds in the world. This is the info they are getting. They only trade 3.0 blockchains, and they have all the data about them, and 2.0 and 1.0 blockchains as well. I have no idea what those are, I guess is what he means. Apparently, after I asked, 3.0 blockchains are ADA and XRP. I got curious and asked about Bitcoin. Answer: Bitcoin is outdated tech, and they see no reason to touch it or even be interested at this point in time. They also have all the data to back this up. To what I asked, okay, but it's the fastest asset in the history of humankind to reach 1 trillion market cap. Is that not interesting for a hedge fund? In other words, what he's saying here is, wait, but Bitcoin, it got to 1 trillion the fastest. He doesn't want to address whether it's technologically superior to these two because he can't. Answer: no, because we have data that shows that 60% of the supply is controlled by the U.S. Fed. What have I been telling you on this channel? Bitcoin was not, I repeat, not created by some guy in a bathrobe that was a libertarian. This thing was made to look like a libertarian movement, and I don't know which government created or which combination of governments created, but it wasn't a Satoshi Nakamoto individual in his bathrobe who just wanted to start a libertarian movement. Forget that. This is not what this is. Now, this guy goes on. This is where you start to see just how cultish and how this has become a religion. This guy was just told by a freaking trader with one of the biggest hedge funds in the world. What does he get out of this? At this point, I realize these professionals are being fed with bogus data. I don't know why or by who. I'm still trying to digest this. I left him with, hey, I don't know much about it, but I work on the area full-time for some years. Bitcoin is the biggest breakthrough you will see in your lifetime. Everything else doesn't really matter. So what these guys are saying to themselves, they have backed themselves into this Bitcoin corner so firmly that it's scary. They're saying no technology that comes after Bitcoin is relevant in any kind of way. He's saying it. Michael Saylor said, it's crazy. This whole idea is crazy. But what's even crazier is I've shown you the clips, the Janet Yellens, the Christine Lagarde, the people who are these central bankers who are running the world. Make no mistake, they can control Bitcoin. Even if it's from a taxation standpoint, they can control it. And these people think that somehow because of the technology that they can't. And I think the two things they're missing is, one, it wasn't created by some random libertarian. That's what someone out there or some government out there wanted people to believe. In my opinion, to fuel all of the inflation that escaped from all the printing and the QE, they wanted it to flow into Bitcoin, something they could control, because they can control it and it is trackable. That's what we were lied to about for 10 years. Now, the other thing these guys don't seem to get their mind around is that these people have said, this is not my theory, they have said that Bitcoin needs to be regulated. And I think they're talking about taxes, and I think they're going to pound it. Now, I want you to hear this. After everything I just showed you, This guy, and I showed you this guy's resume. This is that Mike Green guy that put Pompliano in his place. I want you to listen to what he says. And remember, I showed you his resume. This guy has consulted with some of these central banks, the IMF. It was in his resume, IMF. Some of these big time government organizations that are running this world. He's consulted with them. I don't think that he's coming up with this stuff out of nowhere. Listen to what he says.
As you know, I actually am incredibly skeptical on Bitcoin. I think that one of the wonderful things about it is that it is the proverbial all things to all people. It is a mirror that reflects what you want to see in it, right? So some descriptions are it is a commodity that has extraordinarily low storage and transportation costs. Some descriptions are that it is money. Some is that it's a store of wealth that magically makes you money. So to me, I think one of the underlying features of Bitcoin is this idea that it has survived. I don't think that's true. And I actually think that 2021 is going to be a year in which we discover that what we think is today Bitcoin is actually not Bitcoin. And I know that sounds cryptic, and I'm not prepared to reveal a lot of the work that I've done in this area.
What?
But I do think that the general theory that Bitcoin is going to evade the response from the US government for long enough for it to become fully established is misplaced. And I would suggest that in the process of the enthusiasm for Bitcoin as a mechanism for protecting your quote unquote wealth from the US government or other major sovereigns, that one, you're opening, there's a very clear avenue open to attack, which is simply to declare that, fine, you want it to be a currency, Bitcoin's a currency. Therefore, taxes are no longer against a realized gain as you would have in a security. Your taxes have to be marked to market on an annual basis. And so if Bitcoin goes from 20,000 to 40,000, even if you didn't sell, you owe taxes on that difference. That at minimum, I think, is coming. And ironically, it's the worst nightmare for Bitcoin because it would create a tremendous supply of Bitcoin, particularly in the United States, that I would suggest the Bitcoin maximalists have underappreciated. I think the second thing is that this focus on Bitcoin and the idea of the separation of money from the state, which does not work in the simplest form. It's predicated on a failed Austrian view that there is some inherent intrinsic value to money, that money is the most marketable commodity.
Wow. The things that guy said in that clip are downright scary if you really digest that. Okay, at the top of the description of this video, you will have a link to the unstoppable domains. I thought they had sold. Let me refresh this. Let's see. It says purchase pending for look at this, $100,000. Cannabis.crypto, shop.crypto, doctor.crypto, movies.crypto, $100,000. Anyway, they're still doing the premium domain sale. There's a link to this if you're wanting to go look through these. Those are the expensive ones. As you go down, they're less expensive, like colleges.crypto. As you go down, you'll see some antiques.crypto, painters.crypto. So anyway, they've got a lot of different things. They're only doing these. They're selling these premium domains for a limited time, is my understanding. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that cannabis.crypto has a purchase pending.